person. They cannot wound a person. I don't care how good of a shooter they are. They're supposed to shoot to take you down. Because if they wound them, then on their investigation, they're going to say, well, if you had an opportunity to wound them, then you had another opportunity to not just shoot them. So you should have never pulled out your weapon. If you're going to pull out your weapon, you got to take them down. So that's why all cop shootings, you will get away with a killing than a wounding. You would get fired for a wounding. You won't get fired for a killing.
Wow.
Dr. Dyer, this is Michael Hopkins here.
How you doing, sir?
Hey, how you doing?
I used to live in Maryland too. How are you? This right here, I am so glad. See, I see brothers that look like me that understand what I understand. And Dr. Dwyer, you are spot on. Like I said, I used to live in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. 30 years in Maryland. And what you're saying about carry concealed, I had my own training school where I used to train people just like what you're saying. I used to train security, work in GSA, federal buildings, state, local. So what you're saying is spot on. Maryland, it was always an issue with that carry concealed in Maryland. And yeah, they may have done that, but once again, you're spot on. Like you said, all the folks that look like you and me, that's who they trying to eliminate, talking about assault rifles and all that. And they know it's nothing but lies. Up and down, straight up. I was in the Army too. I was in the Army. I know about M16, AR-15, M4s, pistols, all of that stuff. I used to train on all of that stuff. And what you're saying is right. When I first in DC, I don't know, Dr. Dwight, you remember this during the Fenty administration of DC government. That's when this handgun carry concealed in DC came to fruition. A lot of people didn't believe me when I told them back then, you were going to be able to carry concealed in the District of Columbia. Everybody laughed at me many moons ago, years ago. The only reason why I knew it was going to happen, because the folks that don't look like all of us was moving to DC in droves. They was living in places in DC where you ain't never seen white folks. I'm just being for real for you. Dr. Glass, you know what I'm talking about. We never seen in Southeast DC, in the heart of Southeast, you ain't never seen no white folks. Come on now. But yet it was happening. And I knew that carry concealed was coming. When I used to offer the classes for DC residents, the majority of the people I had would be white, wouldn't be black. And it's a mindset. That's what, to me, that's what you guys are talking about, all of you. It's a mindset. Most people in this country have never been through terrorism.
Right.
You know, the real stuff. So they don't have a mindset when you go in a McDonald's or you go to Walmart and you go to these places. They don't have the mindset that somebody can come and take you out. Go be in the army. Be in the army. Go to another country and watch how your mindset changes. It's for real.
Wow.
And these weapons and things, you can take away all the AR-15s, M4s, what they call assault rifles, all you want to. Give me a mini Ruger 14. It fires 5.56. I don't need 30-round magazines. If I was in that mindset, I can take 10-round magazines, take them bad boys together and take people out. If I had that kind of mindset.
I have family and close friends. I train with I go to Israel often. I've trained with the Mossad, IDF.
Now you're talking. You talking, Dr. Dwyer.
Yep. Because a lot of the issues in terms of education and stuff, they know that and they educate their people on that stuff.
So when we go to Carrie's point, Dr. Hutton's point, we say, should we be arming teachers? I know of a woman who was a teacher, and one of the kids was going to get pulled outside because they have gates inside their schools, inside their playgrounds. And one of the kids was close to the gate, and someone tried to pull that kid through the gate. A female teacher, doesn't matter if it's female or male, but it was a female. She put 2 in his head at 35 feet. Mm-hmm. The guy dropped on the other side of the fence, and the kid was safe. And they just, that's it. So if you train them right, everyone can be carrying, you know?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
And then in the beginning, that fence should have never been in a way where she should have been able to, someone could get pulled through there from the very beginning.
It was,
you know?
they're like little fences, and this was like a 6-7-year-old. So one of the people tried to take one of these kids from the playground. That didn't work. So
yeah. So basically, if we were going to go down that route, which we should, like pretty much like the Israelis do, we would definitely need to have some kind of formal education, or we would need to basically do like they do in the rural southern communities and stuff like that. Get that education and teach folks to not to be afraid of these guns and stuff like that, but teach them how to respect them. And and I think that's part of the problem, because right now you do have some kind of unequalness whenever it comes to these weapons, that a lot of folks, and unfortunate, and you all saw what happened with that Black Lives Matters movement, where that kid shot those other people up and then just walked by with a gun, with a weapon.
Right, exactly.
Hey, you listen up. I'm going to tell you something. I kid you not. I got pulled over in Maryland. Do you know why I got pulled over? This is not even a year ago. I got pulled over because the car I was driving, it was over a year ago now, because I don't have that car, but it had a cover on the license plate. And in Georgia, it's legal, but there it's not. So when the lady state trooper pulled me over, she said, "Are you carrying a weapon?" They're going to ask me that when that guy was carrying a weapon. I mean, you see what I'm saying? And that's just the way how things are. So I told her, I said, look, I said that I told her I got friends in Washington, D.C. that I can call and let them know. And one of them was Patrick Leahy, even though, because I have worked with him on a number of issues. And I told him, I said that like I said, why? I said, why I need to go through all of this over a license plate? I said, that's illegal in the state of Georgia. And she said, yeah, but you're not in Georgia. So I said, well, then what do you want to do? She gave me a ticket. I took the ticket and ran with it. And then I didn't have to pay it, because what I did, I literally told the senator about it. And I don't know what he did, but he got me off of that. And, but folks will single you out. What if I did have a gun? She's probably one of those people that if I went to the glove compartment, that she said, well, I saw him reaching and put a couple in me. And that is so unfortunate right now. And this kind of education, right? I honestly think if we were to spread the education, make it clear, make it where everybody understands intuitively their right to bear arms and embrace that, folks would not be behaving like that so quickly. Because I remember, Ken, one time I went with you in Oklahoma, and you went into a Circle K and you were armed. Nobody didn't look at you and say, let me go after him, because everybody got guns there.
Mm-hmm. So this conversation is going to change. Is that correct? If we come back to this in about 2 years, maybe even 3 or 4 years, this is going to look very different. I think you'll have a whole bunch of education across the board.
But Kerry, here's the thing. We got to stop letting people tell our story. We have to change it for what is good for us, because when it changes, it's not going to be good for us. It's going to be harder for us. For instance, you guys said Atlanta is a bunch of people allowed to carry now, right?
Yes.
Have you noticed?
But we still don't embrace it. We don't exercise it.
But have you noticed the prices of the guns? The gun that you get for the gun that you get for $320 is now $670. You like right? This little piece of shit CZ's what? 700? You're like, no, bro. I am not paying $8 for a Beretta. I don't care what you do with it.
Yeah. Hey, and also Dr. O, I saw he was on here just a moment ago from Trinidad, but we also have Bahamas on here too. We have Calvin Mackey from the Bahamas on here also.
Awesome. Hey, guy. What's going on, Calvin? Dr. Dreyer?
Yeah, Dr. Dreyer.
Okay. I think you'd rather pay $670 for that Beretta than to pay $3,000 for an AR-15 here in the Bahamas.
Wow.
Well, I tell you, I got a gun for you then. Where can I ship it? Where can I ship it?
That may cost you $500,000 in the Bahamas.
Yeah. So it's $3,000 plus 100% duty on the gun. So
yeah. And, you guys know. Go ahead. This is Ken. I think, in listening to you guys, there's some very good points being made. But I think even as martial arts instructors and gun owners and carrying a firearm, I think we need to understand that there's two different mindsets. When you have that firearm on you, which I carry mine 99.9% of the time. Matter of fact, I carry a Glock 19 on my person, and I got a Glock 23 and a lockbox in my vehicle with 4 mags so that I can, in case it go down, I can have some backup. But I still understand that I have to carry myself a certain way. And Dr. Hines, you saw when I carry my weapon here, I don't believe in open carry. I believe that I am the first target if I do open carry. And I understand that once I train my weapon, I need to make sure that I'm going to hit my target.
Yeah.
Because if I don't hit my target, I'm probably going to hit someone else that may be running for their life or whatever. That's why the training is very, very important.
Exactly.
And understanding your weapon. I get all the way down to knowing that if I shoot a 115 grain hollow point, I know it's going to travel approximately 1,500 feet per second. I understand those things about my weapon, and I don't know if people get into it that deep, but once that projectile comes out of that barrel, it's no turning back. And on the martial arts side of it, if you're beating the hell out of somebody, you can stop at any time. But if you are firing a firearm, once that bullet comes out, you can't, it don't have brakes on it. So you have to be very aware of your surrounding. And what Dr. Dyer said earlier about if you go into a store, you have a perimeter and different things of that nature. Even at that, discharging your firearm, you have to make sure. So I think the training is very, very important. And me myself, I spend a lot of time. Dr. Hines knows I spend a lot of time at the range shooting or out in the field. I'm always doing something with my firearm. I even have dummy bullets that I can sit in my house and shoot at targets. So it's very important because you can get yourself caught up in a really tough position with a firearm if you're not trained with it, and then understanding your behavior. Dr. Hines, you mentioned about the guy that got shot. I understand. I was in a personal situation some years ago where I had to bring out my firearm. I didn't have to discharge it, but I knew when the law enforcement came, I laid my weapon down and I began to back away from it. And I got down on my knees. My hands was raised. Even though I was in the right, I needed to let them know perfectly that I wasn't a threat.
Right.
So
you
have to understand your behavior.
Oh, behavior, okay.
And just for your own personal safety. So I mean that's pretty much my input on that.
Wow. All right. I have to tell you, I'm still, this is Kerry, I'm still just amazed by this conversation today. I think this is for me, it's a great introduction. Again, I'm in New York City. I think it's a whole different ball game up here, but I'm going to definitely start myself looking at this very differently than I have in the past.
Mayor Adams is going to bring guns to New York.
Talk to me about that a little bit more.
I know I worked with when he was campaigning, even before he was borough president. I do a lot of
in my borough, of course.
Yeah, so borough. Oh wow. I do a lot of political stuff. So just knowing him, and the conversations we have had, he would like to bring concealment to the public. Absolutely.
Yeah, New York, we're gonna, honestly, I think that we can do a whole, I'm hoping that we'll be able to do something like this, almost just for New York City, because I think New York City is a little different than other places for whatever reason, and our history here. I just think I think this is a great first step for us to begin to inform the people and educate, and I think someone said training earlier as well. I think all that will play well up here. And
the only problem you have in New York is that the people who are carrying guns are illegals.
Illegal.
That's right.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
got family members that are correction officers on Rikers Island. Actually, they retired, and they told me they took 3 months for them to be able to get their license, and they have to do a gun training. They have to do gun training for a certain amount of hours before they release them that permit.
Correct. 6 hours.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Dyer, I want to go back to something you said earlier about Israel. And, every citizen in Israel have to join the IDF at some point. And twice?
2 years.
Twice? 2 years. That's right. Exactly. So the culture of weapons is there.
Right.
It is there. And they don't have massive shootings like we have.
But also
the
culture of communities there. It's a mirror effect. The issue is not so much guns, it's community, it's family, it's friendship, it's neighborhoods, it's your storekeeper, it's all these things. The guns are just, it's like bread. It's part of it. If you're hungry, I feed you.
Right.
Like I'm a Bronx kid. Originally, I'm a Bronx kid. Like if people go to Brooklyn, Carrie, you live in Brooklyn? Have you ever seen a homeless Hasidic?
No. Wow.
You know why there's no homeless Hasidic?
Because of the sense of community.
Each other.
Exactly. They have a big sense of community here.
It doesn't mean that there's no poor Hasidics, but there's no homeless Hasidic. Right. And the thing is, you know what? Maybe we just don't know what they really do to them. Let's go with that one. Let's get there. I wish we could get there. But that sense of community, Dr. Hines, we are so traumatized. Most people don't know I'm a neuroscientist. And I deal with trauma. But most people, we are still traumatized from slave mentality thinking, that we still don't trust each other, from the house Negro to the field Negro to the Negro who's riding the coach. That's why we're so dysfunction. We're dysfunction in so many ways. And for us to keep trying to build community, and now you're adding the guns. Who doesn't? Who would love to keep adding guns into the Black community? The white people. They're not trying. They want us because they know we're so dysfunctional. We'll shoot each other quicker than shoot anybody else.
And most of those, most of that is because of some kind of retribution that is related to the drug trade.
Right.
Yeah, just like I was talking about in the very beginning about what's going on in my community. Same thing. Everybody's killing each other.
Yeah.
Abdul, where are you again, Abdul?
I'm actually in Stone Mountain.
Oh, okay.
Atlanta.
Yes.
Lithonia, actually right, almost borderline Lithonia and Stone Mountain. Right out of suburb, 15 minutes from Atlanta.
Baltimore, I've said this 2 years ago when I got here. I said, I wouldn't want this, but being in so many other different countries, I kind of think Baltimore needs this because of the killing that goes on in Baltimore. It's like they're giving out candy. And I said, they ought to bring in the military and sweep Baltimore. Section by section. I know a lot of Black and brown faces going to be in detention or lockup centers, or you can turn these high schools into detention centers till you vet them out. I know, I get it. It's horrible. But it's almost like you have a roach-infested home. you gotta not, you can't just spray it, you gotta bomb it, and you gotta remove all your stuff out of the house before you put stuff back in. And certain cities are going to need to be swept. And now, as you sweep them, the roaches run. They'll run to Jersey, they'll run to Philly, they'll run to New York. But before the sweep, what you do is you barricade that, because they can't run so far, and you run them right, and anyone who's running is wrong. How about that?
No, I agree with you. And
martial law to me.
It is martial law. It doesn't sound like martial law. It is martial law.
Want me to tell you something though? People are going to basically be able to live ultimately in harmony in the short run, maybe non-democratic conditions. And that's the only way they're going to basically be able to live in the long run under democratic conditions. You can't really have freedom when you walk out the door. I always give this example of Chicago. Anybody here from Chicago online? All right. There's Michelle Obama met this 12-year-old girl. Oh, yeah. 2 months later, the girl was killed in a crossfire coming home from school. What's the probability of meeting the first lady and then being killed in a crossfire? That's pretty high. Last 4th of July, Marion, what's her name? Bowser. She attended a cookout. And when she left, there was a boy 12 years or 10 years old that was killed in a shootout. Those of you who live in Maryland may remember that this last 4th of July, 2021. And I'm saying to myself that this is really insane, but some kind of way we're going to have to take some measures, just like you said, Dr. Dyer. And I know it sounds almost like I have non-democratic tendencies, but I'm just being real that, you got to gut that out. And I think the analogy with roaches is good. Roaches is a structural problem.
Right.
And you have to basically do something to that structure to get rid of them. You can't just keep spraying, because that's not going to get rid of them. But one of the things, and let me just share this with one of my students, Adam. I should have had him on this call actually, but Adam got a job working in Flint, Michigan as an economist for the city hall. So when he was there, he was stunned about the project, because his family, his mother and father, and I know some of you guys on the call know him and know the mother and father, and he's come from Jamaica. They come from Jamaica. Mom is Yale educated. Dad is not MIT educated. And here it is. He's going to Flint, Michigan now, and he's seeing this for the first time. He called me up. He said, "Man," he said, "they live like this here, and I can't believe it." He said, "Why do they do this right here?" And he said, "This one is robbing from that one, and they know who they are. They know exactly who the Hellraisers are. But there is nothing that you can. If somebody is stealing from you in a situation like that, the only thing you can do is just try to be as friends with them as you can and hope your turn don't come around. I mean, because it's crazy. But I know, because I grew up in a situation like that in the Richard Allen projects in Philadelphia.
In Philadelphia?
Yes, that's right. In Philadelphia. You remember them? 12th
yes,
and Poplar Street, right around 12th and Poplar Street. Then later on, I jumped out of the frying pan into the fire in Newark, New Jersey, in Stella Wright's projects. So that's why for me, martial arts wasn't just no recreational thing going to a karate tournament. It was real. I mean, it was real. And my younger brother Kerry is on this call now, but he know we lost brothers in that North Philadelphia area. Yes, we lost two.
Yeah.
And all of them by gunfire. And so this is not something that is theoretical to us. This is real.
Exactly.
And what is real to me is the way in which you respond to that. And I truly believe that you have to be heavy-handed coming after those folks, because it's a culture of crime now.
I agree.
And it's a culture of crime where we're about now, don't get me wrong, everybody in the projects is not bad. They were not. But the good is definitely marginalized by the bad there. And so being able to approach it with a heavy hand and stuff like that, it's needed. But the problem with that is that you're going to always have some detractors and stuff that's going to say, no, 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 like, you know, leave it alone. And most of those folks usually got family that is part of that criminal network.
Yeah, they're getting some money. They're getting some kickbacks.
So that answers your question again, Dr. Hines, is that as martial artists, it's you know, anyway, if you are a religious person, it is supposed to be the way you carry yourself is how you preach to the next person, right? You there is no short term of mentioning your faith to another person, saying, if you're Christian, are you saved? If you're Muslim, have you found Allah? Whatever, right? So we do not talk enough as martial artists and talk to people we don't know, young men, young black brothers, young sisters, because we have a sister, but to say, are you working on your peace? Then they probably look at you, because I know I do it. I see all kinds of young people. Are you working on your piece, young man? What are you talking about, old school? Well, that's my end. Hey, I want you to try to come train with me, blah, blah, blah. But we don't speak enough to them to let them know we see them. So we miss them. You know, the one thing about Jehovah's Witnesses, they're going to knock on your door.
That's right.
We ought to do the same thing. We're not knocking on enough doors verbally when we see them. We don't have to go out of our way. We see them.
Right. And to that point, Dr. Dyer, there are situations a lot of times I see younger folks and I may say something to them, you know, if I think that I can correct them or some level of truth will inspire change. I do that. I could probably do a lot more, but I'm so busy basically being caught up into the whole thing of being uptight about the crime itself. And sometimes I have to catch myself and I have to say to myself, well, hold just a moment. I was 18 years old. I was 20 years old too at one point. And I have to make sure that I don't go too far in that whole thing, in that whole way of actually identifying young folks as thugs and stuff like that. Because not everybody is a thug just because they wear their pants hanging down or because they got some crazy hair doing. Matter of fact, not too long ago, I was in I was in New Jersey, right on Route 22, trying to find this place and going to South Plainfield. And I saw this guy, he had his hair all messed up. I said, hey man, I said, you ever heard of Jim Kelly? He said, no. I said, Jim Kelly, he started with Bruce Lee and Enter the Dragon. He said, oh. I said, why you don't have your hair like his? He said, he started laughing. He said, oh, he had an afro. This is just a hair. This is hair growing wild. I said, but aren't you trying to get afro? And then I said, oh, okay, I got it. I didn't get that. I got it good. He gave me a lesson. He knew what he was trying to get accomplished. And that was just to let his hair grow.
Exactly.
And
I can relate to that. Believe me.
You got some of these guys that are into these, you know, they into their rap, their hip hop culture and stuff.
Exactly.
And they following other artists on how they wearing their hair. And this is just the thing of the now for these kids, you know? It's not really saying that, you know, that they're this way or they're that way, you know?
Exactly. And I can safely say, as host of the Hair Radio Show out of New York, to everybody, you know, I think, you know, hair, it's really not hair. Hair to me is just a proxy to allow us to have these discussions. And look where we are today with this. So, you know, I just want to kind of begin to kind of wrap things up. So how about this, Brother Lee? Did we answer these, you know, these big questions and that I think I also heard Dr. Dyer mention. So did we really respond to the last question? I think was what the role for the martial artists for you guys in terms of the, you know, the right things to do should you have this type of an encounter. So was that really answered?
Yeah, I think like as Dr. Dyer was saying about being in a store and being able to understand your proximity in relation to certain areas or scopes of interest or like being able to be aware of that, but also that should actually probably be inculcated into some martial art program. That's what I'm into your teaching. But I think Dr. Dyer also eloquently reminded me not everybody's a good martial arts teacher, which he's right. And a lot of folks are not really focused on those kind of things. They're more focused on karate tournaments. I always ask people the question. I say, could you see yourself existing in martial arts without being part of the martial arts industrial complex? Most people cannot. They can't see that. So it's kind of hard when I talk about, and a lot of times, like, I don't do it anymore, but from 2011 to about 2017, I would go on Quantico, and I would have a lot of guys in the Marine Corps that would train with me in combatives. And I remember there was a guy from the FBI there one time, and he did some Korean martial arts named Kill Soul, which you're probably familiar with. And he was kicking all over the place. And I remember I ran into him, clotheslined him real quick. And he was telling me, he said, that you ain't supposed to do that. And then it dawned on me that what it is he's talking about sports martial arts. And I'm not saying anything is wrong with that, because there's 3 genres of martial arts. You got sports, you got tradition, and you got combatives, which also include self-defense or personal safety. But the fact is that most people don't really get into the combatives aspect, not proper. When you're properly into the combatives, your mindset is not the same. So you would definitely be teaching these things. And I'm not saying a person can't do both, but you got to know exactly where you're at when you're teaching. If you're teaching sports, or if you're teaching the sports martial arts, and that's MMA, point karate, judo, and all that kind of stuff. If you're teaching that, then that's fine right there. There's nothing wrong with it. Just don't get it twisted and think that that is the real thing, and get out there and try to train someone, which I've known people who have done that. And sometimes it led to people's lives being taken. And we have someone, Felicia, I think you may have been gone from Massachusetts at the time, but there was a lady, she was great in Aikido. She was on the police force in Dorchester, Massachusetts, and somebody came at her and they tried to they took her weapon from her, and she struggled with them over the weapon, and he got the weapon and killed her. And and I'm not saying that because I don't know what kind of martial arts, how she was applying her Aikido, but there are real confusion in the martial arts instructor arena as far as like what is real and what is not real. And part of it is because like there's so much out there that folks they focus on these styles, they focus on a certain type of look, they focus on a technique and stuff like that. And they like the stuff that looks sexy, which means that I could get up there and I can maybe do that bicycle kick. I could turn back and hit with side kick and come off of that and that. And we all probably have done that when we were younger. And some of us could still do it now, I guess. But the fact is, well, some of y'all could probably still do it. But the key is that when you start talking about bullying in a realistic sense, talk about active shooter, you talk about basically defending yourself on the street or personal security of an individual, what you find out is the same point karate techniques that you do at a karate tournament is what they're using as that. And the mindset is totally different. So, like a lot of times I ask people, I say, well, how do you handle taking on more than one attacker? And let me share this with you. I was in the office about 3 years ago, right before the pandemic. And there was one young guy that works with me. He went out, he's in Washington, D.C. He went out for some snack at 10 o'clock at night. He got robbed. And because guys actually could have used his phone. So the owner of the corporation, he was telling him right then. So he said, see that guy over there, Doc? He said that happened to him. He said that would have never happened. He said, yeah, but there was 2. And he said, Doc, he said, does it matter if there's 2? I said, it'd just be 2 whipped behind. That's all.
Yeah.
There's no biggie.
So Dr. Hines, before we close up, you remind me of the thing of the comical martial artist where Indiana Jones and the first Indiana Jones, and the guy comes out with 2 big blades and he does this And Indiana Jones takes out his little pistol and shoots him and be like, okay, I'm done with that, right? So
yeah, and he did it nonchalantly.
Right. He's like, the next, right? So the other thing is, if we don't do better, it won't get better. And that is education, that is practice. Most people aren't lifelong martial artists, and it's a whole martial science. There's a whole thing, there's a way to live, there's a way you talk, there's a way you carry yourself, there's all those things. You're right. Out of the many we know, there's very few, very, very few. And so are they teaching the survival techniques in the street? Yes, it's going to get hurt. So we have to teach teachers. That's the only way we do better, is that we teach teachers, and we talk to students to talk to their teachers, and let's get ego out of the way. You're going to run into ego. You're going to run into ego.
True.
Right? And the sad issue is you know exactly where they are as a martial artist if you run into ego. They are still young, mentally martial artists. If you're running into ego, I don't care how old you are and how long you've been doing it. If I run into ego and you've been doing this for 50 years, you've been doing 50 years wrong. I mean,
that's right.
Yeah, that's just a fact. And it's nothing against what you've been through, because I'm still running into ego. Wow. That gets diminished with pain. You're still suffering. So I think we can do better. We be better. We just got to open our mouths and say something. We got to open our mouths a little gently and say, are you for community? And get them back doors. Oh, absolutely for community. And say, well, have you voted? Oh, I don't know. Well, now I know where you're thinking. If you can't even vote for community, then how can I talk to you about security and safety and public concern? Because
that's true. Yeah. And Dr. Dyer, to that note, that's pretty much related to the lack of understanding of the Second Amendment. It's the same kind of cavalier attitude that you have towards voting. It's the same type of cavalier that you take in terms of exercising your rights to bear arms. And when I talk about bearing arms, I'm not talking about it in a negative sense, but just embracing the culture.
What about asking the parent? They're like, oh, I want my kids to be protected. Well, have you gone to a PTA meeting? Oh, I don't go to those things. Well, then I know exactly where you at. You can't say you care for your child if you've never been to a fucking PTA meeting.
That's right.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. Well, I think, Brother Lee, I think we should try to get some closing thoughts from everybody if possible.
Yeah. What I would like to do, I think we have like about 11 or 12 people on. And some have actually have kind of like have gone, but I think real quickly, if we can just go across and just say something quickly about everybody that's on. By the way, before I say that, my brother Kerry has he's the host of the Hair Talk radio show. Sometimes I'm on that show. Sometimes I go on there and I do. He lets me on there. And I do political commentary and stuff like that. And Dr. Dyer, I'm absolutely sure he would definitely enjoy having you on the show sometime, as well as anyone on there. And I think it's fun. I really love going on there. Actually, him and we talk all the time. So so it's really great. Just from a brotherly standpoint.
Yeah.
And
my website, just so that everybody knows, it's just HAIradio.com. HAIradio.com. Our phone number's there, all that. So great stuff.
Yeah. And Kerry, by the way, some of my guys have found you without me even telling.
Oh, really? Well, I'm across the internet.
Yeah, because they have already found you and they knew who you were. And I said, really? I said, wow.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I think I just done Kerry's job for him by saying who he is. And those of you who don't know me, I'm Leroy Hines, and I'm the CEO of CSI, Combat Solutions International, and also the founder of American Self-Defense Association, which is basically a vanilla arm that I use to teach combatives. So that's the way here, nobody have to get caught up in the being in my belt system and all that kind of stuff. It's a means of folks coming on board to be able to learn and just be able to cherry pick whatever they want. So, and with me, of course, I work in the DC area. I live in Atlanta, and I'm kind of like all over the board. Amazing. And we'll go right down the line. What about you, Calvin? I think I've mentioned you before, but if you want to say something.
Sure. It's a pleasure to meet you guys here. I'm in the Bahamas. I'm in Nassau, precisely. My background is I did 10 years on the Royal Bahamas Police Force here in the Bahamas. And I left the police force and did 22 years as the director of security at now Cisco Bahamas, which is a US-based company all around the US. I really enjoyed the conversation. A whole lot of stuff that you guys are talking about. We have a gun issue here. Our laws are kind of still archaic because a lot of it is based upon the British laws. We do have, like I said, we do have a gun issue here, which is illegal firearms. An average person can get a gun license for a shotgun and a rifle. But a handgun is one of the most difficult things for the average citizen to get. But the criminal can get it easily because what they say is it's difficult to man our waters just because of the resources. We get aid from the US government as it relates to resources, boats and stuff like that, but it's still not enough. You have pleasure vessels coming in here in the thousands, and the guns are just getting in. They're coming in from Haiti, suspectedly, so the guns are getting here. So our crime rate is kind of high. The crime rate is kind of high, and we live in a trendy country society. Whereas if it's happening in the US, it's only a matter of time before it happens here. Wow. So in listening to you guys would educate me for the time whenever it happens here. I can educate folks here in the Bahamas. I can pass this on to folks here to prepare them that even our law enforcement in particular, that when we were to have these sort of situations, we'll be prepared for it. So it's good hearing from you guys, learning from you guys. And I look forward in just being a part of more conversation with you.
Well, we really appreciate you, man.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. And Dr. Dyer?
No, I'm short. I'm an activist. I'm a human rights activist. That's really what I do. I do a lot of things. It's extensive, but it's tough, you know. Military still train special groups down in Florida on 6th Group and 8th Group. I go where I'm needed. I was at a Stop the Violence campaign in Frederick, Maryland yesterday, you know, I work a lot with emotional science. So I do the physics and the chemistry of the brain and how it affects you in the thought process and how it affects the body and how the internal controls the external. So I actually put the science to what people think and some different modalities. I actually explain how the cells work and how the cellular biology works, how the epidemiology works of historical trauma. So most people do things. It's kind of like one of the brothers here said that knowing your weapon. You know, I know what the round does when you use the 150 grain hollow point. I know the brain. I know the brain like I know my weapon because my brain is the weapon. That's one of my weapons. It's the first primary. I always say I have my primary, which is my brain. I have my secondary, which is my hands, and then my backup is my carry. That's how I roll. You know. Wow. And but it's, you know, educationally and things like that, I'm like all over the charts. You know, I have 4 PhDs, so it just goes on and on. I write, I you know, so I lecture a lot about trauma and how we can heal. I'm a naturopathic. One of my PhDs is in naturopathic medicine. So it's just, and the other one's in physics and cellular biology and health sciences. So, and I'm a martial artist. I live it, I breathe it. So it's just part of my life. So, but I'm here to support each other and brothers and build community because we are sick. We are sick as a collective group. And so if you need me, I put in my, I put in my little, I also host a talk show 2 times a week, 3 times a week, actually. So I'll put in my number, both numbers. And if you need me, just reach out to me and I'll be there. I'm that Michael Jackson song. I'll be there.
Well, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, Dr. Dyer, I've always been impressed with you, and you know, and I'm definitely going to be reaching out to you. And you know, I'm gonna tell you, you're definitely a man of the ages. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. I think our fans would love Dr. Dyer. Yeah, we'll have to make something happen soon.
Yeah. And Ken.
Yes, Ken here in Oklahoma City. Really enjoyed the conversation and everybody's
Wait a minute,
input.
Oklahoma City, so you're a cowboy?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Are you literally an OU fan?
Nah, not really. I'm more of a Cowboy fan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm a Giant fan, so I don't even know if we can hang out.
I think we can compromise. Yeah, I'm more of an Oklahoma State Cowboy fan.
Okay.
So, but anyway, I work for the Oklahoma City Police Department. My job is to go into the Oklahoma City elementary school system to work with the youth, and hopefully with some of the mentoring that I do through martial art concept, that I can prevent, or my team can prevent, some of the young people from being the person that we're talking about here as a shooter or career criminal or something like that, to try to put them on the proper trajectory and to being a model citizen. And the last thing I have to say, I think as a martial arts instructor, I think it's our responsibility, if we're going to teach firearms, we need to know firearms, as far as breaking them down, putting them back together, going out shooting and doing everything that we need to do. I don't think we can really teach a true level of understanding just on theory. We need to actually put some practice to it if we're going to pass that information on, because what we could possibly be doing if we're not testing what we're doing is setting people up for failure and to lose lives. So I think it's very important that we actually go out. As I stated before, I go out often, and Dr. Hines know I go out, man. We when they was here, what, a month or so ago, we put a lot of ammo down range, and I try to do that often, because if I teach someone anything about firearms, I want to make sure that it's tried as well as I can in a safe environment. So I think the conversation is good. I don't think guns is going away. And I think as instructors, we need to try to get a better understanding as to what information we're putting out there. So that's my take on it.
All right. Anybody else on Dr.
Felicia?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Felicia Devon. I want to first apologize for my tardiness. I had another meeting and it went way, way over. And so that's what I want to make sure that I let you guys know. I was invited here by Dr. Hines. I wish that I could have heard more of the conversation. What I have heard and what I do know of this topic, I'm just so impressed with. I think that these conversations are imperative. And I'm honored to even be a part of something like this, and to know that these conversations are happening, and that these that plans and actions are being taken, place so that we can be prepared for whatever is to come. Because in the climate that we're in right now, I think that we all are a little bit, on edge and just kind of looking forward for it to almost happen. And I think that a lot of people are not educated and they're not ready for that to come, even though they feel it might be happening. So us having the knowledge, having these conversations, and then getting the information, out there to the people, to the masses is very important.
I got a question for Felicia, if you don't mind. I know Dr. Hines said you in Boston?
I right now am in Atlanta. I'm born and raised. I'm a Boston strong girl. Yes, I am.
Boston strong girl. So that means, are you a Sox fan?
A Red Sox fan. I'm a
hold on. You better. I'm a Yankee. I'm a Bronx boy. So you heard that. If you
it's
did,
okay. It's okay. Everybody can be what they would love to be, I would never, take that away from anyone, be a fan.
Because when you say you're Boston strong, that means you have to be a Sox fan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. We won't. They're not going to hold that against you, Felicia.
I hope not.
I'm just joking. hey, listen up. I hold my nose when I say this, and I don't like saying it out loud. But yeah, I never outgrew the Philadelphia Phillies. I know. Look, I hear already.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Please don't hold that against me.
Hey, Dr. Hines, one of my closest friends, Seth Joyner. I played football with Seth Joyner. We went to the same high school, and he went over to Philly. He tried to get a bunch of us to go that way. We said, hell no.
Well, I go with you, Dr. Dreyer. I'll go with the Yankees, man.
Because you know why? Because you are a New Yorker. My brother is interested in the position he takes because he's New York now, and I'm sure he probably
now.
But I go with the Mets. Hey, I go with the Mets too. I used to live in Queens.
Yeah, you have to go with the Mets.
Yeah. No, but I still go with the Yankees first.
Yeah. And Grandmaster Hopkins.
Michael.
This has been very enjoyable. And also, side note, yes, I'm from Philadelphia too, Dr. Hines. And
look at that.
And popular. Oh, yeah. I'm North Philadelphia, born and raised.
Yep.
Temple University, around there, Ontario.
That's right.
I'm born and raised, native Philadelphia.
Philly, that's three of us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And also, on another note, I am the host of the Vet Talk radio show with Terry Hines. And basically we do is we cover a lot of issues that veterans like myself and yourself have. And this show has been very enlightening to me too. I haven't been around a bunch of brothers like his and sisters that talked about issues like this. I love this. This dialogue, because a lot of us don't have this dialogue. That's why, just like with the veterans, that's why I'm so passionate with veterans, especially our brothers and sisters, because we got the short end of the stick with a lot of the things with veterans.
And I want to just say, Michael's celebrating over a year with his program. He came to our network, and at first I didn't know how it would fit with a hair and beauty station. And it has done remarkably in the ratings and with everything that we've been doing in its message. So if you get a chance, please check him out on Tuesday mornings. It is early, 8:30 Eastern, right at my Hair Radio Network. And again, at hairradio.com, you'll find all the details. But he's been awesome. Yes.
Abdullah?
Yeah, well, my name is Abdullah Sharif. I'm a native New Yorker, transplanted to Atlanta, Georgia, where I've been with training with Dr. Leroy Hines since 2002. I'm happy to be on this conversation with a lot of great minds and to share solutions to solving a worldwide problem, which we may never solve, but at least we can come up and save a few lives. So I'm thankful to have been speaking to y'all guys. Thank you.
Abdullah, you're in Atlanta. Are you Muslim? Do you practice?
Yes, I am Sunni. Yes.
Okay, so what is your? I know there's some mosques I've talked to in different areas. Are they practicing their security also? And how is that fitting into the studies? Because that's really part of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that's built in me. This is something I've been doing since I was 6 years old.
Right.
So it's just my curriculum, it's just the way, like as Tia was saying, that we kind of grew up in an environment where you had to fight. I mean, you had to fight or lose your sneakers or lose your lunch money. Wow. So it's something that's always been a part of me. So
I want to say Happy New Year, by the way, too.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Oh, you recognize that. Okay.
That's right.
But also back to your question, there's certain mosques in certain areas that are practicing like security, and there's some that just don't really care. A lot of the immigrants, they just don't even care. You know what I'm saying? The Jamil Alameen, West End, communities like that. I mean, they're always going to be tight on security. But there's certain ones that just don't care about all that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And Dennis, did I say the name right? D. Dennis
Daniels.
Daniels
blind.
Oh, Daniels. The Daniels. Sorry.
Hey, what's going on, Jim? Can y'all hear me?
Even with these glasses, I don't see that well.
How you doing? Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet you guys, man. I met Dr. Dyer and you, Brother Hines, at the event last year, I believe, with Dr. Holyfield.
Yes.
Right.
Here in Atlanta. So I'm here in Atlanta as well. My background is in executive transport. I've been doing that for 18 years now. And so having the knowledge, active shooter and things like that, most of my clients are high profile celebrities and entertainers. So having this knowledge is very helpful. It's been very beneficial. I went through the executive protection program with Dr. Holyfield about 3 or 4 years ago. So my background's in boxing. I did Golden Glove for several years, and then I started training. So being around you guys at that event, it was, man, I loved it because we used to train 6 hours a day, 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the evening, every day for almost 7 years. So it's part of my life as well. Yeah. So I love it, man. And I'm here as a student because I love the knowledge that you guys bring to the table. I like being able to have these conversations of things that I think about all the time. So being in an environment where this is, I don't want to say common knowledge, but you guys are pretty well versed on it. So I got my notebook. I just been taking notes, but anytime I can sit at the feet of my, I don't want to say elders. I don't want everybody to get mad at me, but
everybody on here is older than I am. So, I may have spoke too soon.
Yeah, man. So this is an honor, I also was trained by Mr. Seegers as well. So Earl, man, I'm blessed to be here, man. I'm glad you guys did this, and listening to everybody speak, it just gives us motivation to go out and do what we're all trained to do and what we're all blessed to do. And it's an honor to have this support system to be able to do it.
Awesome.
The one thing Mr. Daniels mentioned that we didn't really talk about, I don't know if we want to do this again, Carrie, another time, but when you have an active shooter, you got to rush the shooter.
Correct.
We didn't talk about that.
No, we didn't elaborate on that.
But let's get it out. We'll talk about enough of it. But you gotta rush the shooter. If you wait,
I had that in my notes as well.
Yeah, you gotta rush the shooter. Most people, their biggest mistakes is because people. You got to remember, people are not as technically proficient as others, and that adrenaline is pumping. They're not aiming well; they're spraying. So rushing that shooter, it's not tactically. You got to go dead at them and put them down. So you can't.
I think this is excellent point, Lee. Can we begin to get that agenda together for the next one of these? I think this is extraordinary, and I can't wait
definitely
to put
will.
This on my network.
In October, by that time we'll have all these seminars done. We were going to do a Boolean, and I think Ken and Daryl was going to host that. So we can address that there, because you're right, Dr. Dyer. That is very, very important, because I think one of the things that I always teach people about the LOF, the line of fire, when you actually rushing, and because like you got to make that move, and you can't have no hesitance. And we talk about adrenaline dumps and all that kind of stuff. These are the kind of things that modern martial arts should be teaching, but they're not, in terms of how to respond in that kind of situation. And what I mean about, without going into details about the adrenaline dump, is if somebody come up to you, you're getting your groceries out of the car at night, somebody come up to, hello, and you jump like this right here. How could we take that nervous energy and maybe put that into some kind of constructive action? That is part of that training in terms of mock training drills and stuff. And it's so hard, to really even think along those lines, because most people don't think along those lines. It's hard for me to even convey that to regular martial arts instructors. When I say that, it's almost like, and because what it is that that's something that's off their radar. But that's important. And being able to, because I know most people don't know how to fight. And when I say that, they don't think about that. But what we have to do is teach people in their ordinary lives, being ordinary, to in that moment, to be able to address that adrenaline dump and be extraordinary. And there's no guarantee they're going to survive it. That's the problem. But you got to do something.
Wow.
It's that deep.
I love it. It is deep. All right. I have to say, I think outstanding for everybody. I have to personally thank you again, Brother Lee. Outstanding to everybody on the special call. Thank you for inviting me as well.
Yeah, and look, I really want to say thank you to everybody. Some folks have chimed off. I think Raina was on earlier, and Professor O was on also. But I want to thank everybody for attending, and hopefully in October, we're going to have one on bullying, and we're going to, I have a person, she's a psychologist, and she's also a martial artist, and she's supposed to be attending also. She's a grandmaster, matter of fact. So I'm almost can't wait for that for October to get here. But again, I really appreciate you guys, your input, and Dr. Dyer, particularly you. I'm as always, I'm always impressed. And anything I can do to help, please reach out to me. And I'm sure everybody else on this call feel the same way.
Exactly. Great job, everybody.
Be safe out there.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay. All right. Take care, everyone.
All right. You guys take care.
Awesome.